I want to see you suffer less, a lot less. But suffering is a strong word. I prefer dis-ease, the absence of ease, just not being at peace. It can be agitation, anxiety, a low grade depression perhaps, just restlessness, even boredom. But there's just this nagging feeling that something's not right, something's missing, and I just can't be happy. Have you been there? Are you always there? Have you ever left there? Sadly, a lot of us are always in that state of mind. But I would assert that all 8 billion people of us on this planet want nothing more than to be happy and to have that absence of dis-ease. So why can't we find that? I feel like we're looking in the wrong place. We call ourselves human beings, but we're actually human doings. We just do more, work harder, buy more stuff, consume more food, travel more places, take more vacations, action, do, movement, distraction. We're human doings. But at our core, we should be human beings. And I think that's where some of this suffering comes from, where we feel like we always need to be doing rather than turning inward and being. If you're honest with yourself, can you sit quietly by yourself without any distractions for just 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Yeah. No TikTok, no Facebook, no Instagram, no iPhone, no TV, no fridge. Just sit quietly by yourself. 10 minutes. Can you do that? I'm guessing no. Most of us can't. We need these distractions. We need to do something. We become human doings. Give me something to do to distract my mind. I think it's hilarious. I was at the gym the other day and a guy went up to the front desk and said, "Hey, can you turn the music up louder? I don't want to hear my mind think." You just can't be with ourselves. And you can probably relate to that if you have tried meditation, the purpose of which is to access that innate inner peace within us. But perhaps if you've tried meditation, as soon as you sit down and turn inward a bit and start observing your thoughts, you just see this, what they call monkey mind. It's just bouncing off the walls. And you're like, my God, what is going on there? And it freaks you out. And it might have turned you off and you quit. You're like, that's not for me. It scares me. What's going on in my mind? So what am I going to do? I'm going to do more. I'm going to distract. And it's a perpetual way of living now, and we're so conditioned and it's become so habitual to look external, to the exogenous for our peace and happiness. If I buy more, if I travel more, take more vacations, if I'm just doing stuff, then hopefully I can find that peace. And yet it's fleeting and it's chasing horizons. And at some point you just become exhausted and you go, God, I can't do anymore. And yet I don't have this peace, this absence of disease that I'm talking about. There's just this nagging feeling that something's missing. I just can't be happy. Nike says, just do it. I'm suggesting you say, just be it. We're called human beings for a reason. We're not human doings. And yet, as I said, our lives have become so habitual and conditioned that we have been taught that we should be doing more and consuming more and buying more and all this activity. If you watch TV, any advertisement is certainly suggesting that to you. Take another vacation, buy this car, buy a new iPhone. Do, buy, consume. Nobody says, hey, can you relax? Can you sit still? Can you be? So if you see the mechanics of your mind, I want to bring some awareness to that, because your mind is always in a perpetual state of resistance and seeking. Resistance is from the past. Seeking is to the future. I'm going to talk about each one separately, but they're also connected. I'll give you an example. You're sitting on your couch late at night and you're bored, which is a subtle form of resistance. You're bored, you're looking around, you just cannot be in the moment, just cannot allow it to be. So you get up off your couch and you go to your fridge and grab a big tub of ice cream. Dig into that ice cream, that first bite, happiness. That was seeking. You're seeking the ice cream. So resistance turned into seeking, both denying you of this present moment, just because you could not allow this moment to be. Surrender is a beautiful thing, and if you can just allow yourself to be, you wouldn't feel these things. And by the way, addictions, not that ice cream is an addiction, but cigarettes, going for a drink, smoking weed, all that stuff, is the same mechanics of the mind, where you need to seek that next new thing just to get that relief. So I'll talk about that. But first, let me talk about resistance. I have a quote: resistance is suffering. Suffering is resistance. Wherever you are resisting the flow of life, there is suffering. You could be stuck in traffic. You could have a flight delay at the airport, and you're just resisting it. Like, I don't want to be here. This isn't right. I'll never fly American Airlines again. I'm never going to take the 405 freeway again. If you notice, it doesn't move the traffic any faster or get the plane off into the sky any faster. You're just suffering. You're just creating this internal state of suffering, and it doesn't serve you well. This resistance, which we do all day, every day, to the present moment, it doesn't serve you well. Resistance is, I don't want what I have. Seeking is, I want what I don't have. Resistance is, I don't like what is present. Seeking is, I want what is not present. And you have this battle in your mind where you're always resisting and or seeking, sometimes both, or one, again, leading to another. And it's a form of madness, but it never allows you to have peace, because you never allow life to just unfold as it is, and just be okay with this present moment. You'll notice that with resistance, there's the circumstance, and then how you relate to that circumstance. There's a situation, and then your story about the situation. And it's usually never the circumstance or the situation that causes you the pain and suffering. It's your reaction to the circumstance, your perception of the circumstance, your story of the situation. That's where the suffering is. In Buddhism, they call it the second arrow. So there's two arrows. The first arrow is causing you pain. You have a parking ticket, okay? Not ideal. Nobody wants a parking ticket. The second arrow is the story we make up and our reaction to the parking ticket. Life is not fair. This shouldn't happen to me. Bad things always happen to me. I got screwed. This is wrong. There's suffering there. You got a parking ticket. Pay the ticket. Not ideal. I'm not suggesting it's ideal, but the second arrow, your reaction to the circumstance, your story of the situation, is what's causing the majority of your suffering. Another example, I saw it with a friend who needed to move a few things, and she had a friend promise that he would be over at 2 p.m. to help her move some boxes. He didn't show up. Her reaction was, he betrayed me. He let me down. He didn't value my time and that I needed to do this. So there was the circumstance, he didn't show up. Not ideal, not great. Don't know why. Maybe something came up, had an emergency, what have you. But her story and her reaction to the circumstance, he betrayed me. He let me down. That caused her all the suffering, or at least the majority of the suffering. Can you see the mechanics of the mind with that? Where you have the circumstance and then your reaction to the circumstance. And it's typically the reaction to the circumstance where your cause of suffering comes from. Stuff is going to happen to you. But your reaction and your story of what happens to you is just so much more additional suffering that is unnecessary and is optional. You don't need it. You don't need to do it. So I hope I can shed some light there to see how our mind does create these stories and this narrative and this reaction to circumstances. And it really doesn't serve you well. Now, seeking is to the future. And seeking is the next new thing. Always looking for the next new thing. The iPhone 15. When I get that iPhone 15, I'll be happy. You probably said the same thing last year when you bought the iPhone 14. You just get that hit of dopamine. It's like, oh yeah, you get that rush. I got this next new thing. You're happy, but notice that it's fleeting. It's like chasing horizons. You're happy for a few minutes, a couple hours maybe, and then you want the next new thing. Seeking is always for the next new thing. It's craving, desiring. And it's so habitual in us that we are always seeking the next new thing. As soon as you get something, you're off to the next new thing. And then the next new thing. And yes, that next new thing can cause you some happiness, can bring you some happiness. But it's fleeting. It's temporary. Whatever it is. Shiny new car. If the car was the reason for your happiness, every time you get in that car, you should be happy, right? But you buy a brand new car and a week later you're having a bad day, you jump in your car and you're not happy. It didn't make you happy. This can apply to any object or substance, even a relationship. We get this next new thing, whether it's the boyfriend or an iPhone or ice cream or whatever you're seeking. As soon as you get that seeking, you're happy, but again, it's fleeting. If you're a smoker or if you've observed a smoker, that first puff of the cigarette when they light it, like, shoulders drop, face lightens up. It's like, oh my God, it feels great, right? Fantastic. But second puff, maybe by third puff, it's like, the mind-made activity comes back in, the resistance comes back in, the seeking comes back in, and they've lost that happiness. This mechanics of the mind is really the source of addiction, because you want that hit of dopamine, whether it's cigarette, alcohol, sex, weed, any type of activity, even a relationship. You get that hit of dopamine because you've been seeking that next new thing and you get that thing, whatever it is. But then it wears off and you're right back where you were, and now you're seeking the next new thing. If you follow this pattern for a while, seeking always, craving, desiring, you realize your happiness comes from the cessation of the activity of seeking. I'll repeat that because it's so important. Your happiness comes from the cessation of the activity of seeking. In other words, just for a moment there, you stopped seeking. You stopped craving, stopped desiring because you got what you want. The cigarette, the iPhone, the boyfriend. And you're not resisting anything at that moment because you're right where you want to be and you got what you want. And what really happens is you plunge into your source, the nature of your being. And you feel happiness because the nature of your being is happiness. And that's where your happiness is. There aren't different flavors of happiness. There's not an ice cream happiness and a new car happiness and a boyfriend happiness. The happiness resides within you. It's the happiness. But when you actually get what you want momentarily, that cessation of the activity of seeking happens, and you plunge into your source, which is your being. If you've heard some of my other videos, I use the words consciousness, awareness, all of these things, but you plunge into the source. And you're at peace, the absence of disease. So if you can see the mechanics of the mind there, it's pretty fascinating. But all day, every day, you're either resisting or seeking. And it's not a healthy way to go. There is another gear that you can live life from. It's where you don't need life to unfold in a certain way. You don't have demands on life. You're not resisting what is, and you're not seeking the next new thing. You're just going with the flow of life. I call it having an intimate relationship with reality. Moving at the speed of life. I love those quotes. I'm having an intimate relationship with reality. I'm not resisting what is. I'm not seeking the next new thing. I am just in the moment allowing it to unfold. And I'm moving at the speed of life. Just flowing. It's fluidity. It's harmonious. And it's wonderful. So I hope there's a few nuggets there for you, because we all want to be happy and have that absence of disease. And that is the nature of your being. So you need to turn inward and just be. Nike's got it wrong. Don't just do it. I'm telling you, just be it. And return to who we are. We're human beings. We're not human doings. So don't keep looking for those activities and distractions and travel plans to bring you the happiness. Sure, they're fun. Go do it, but don't make that the source of your happiness. As long as you're resisting and or seeking, you're always going to have those mild states of disease that I opened this video with. The agitation, the anxiety, a low-grade depression, just this uncomfortableness, this nagging feeling that, something's missing, something's not right. I just can't be happy, even though I'm surrounded by all these toys, and I've got travel plans to Hawaii, and got my new iPhone 15. Look, it's a better camera than the iPhone 14. That's the only difference, I think. It's unnecessary. Turn within. That's where your peace and happiness resides. Onward and upward, love and light.